show. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new review. So what's in store for you here tonight? Folks, we have been going at this for a few months now, and we have finally made it. Tonight in reviews, we are talking the season 2 finale of Mayfair Witches. A lot has happened on this season. Season 2 has been a noticeable upgrade from the storylines, the action, the drama that we were getting in that first season. I really enjoyed it. But if you go back and check out my reviews for the first season, a lot of times it can very much drag when we're trying to get to advancing that plot. And season 2 has done a really good job of giving us just more to be interested in with every single episode. There is more happening all the time in this show. So let's see how the finale stacked up with the rest of the season. So in our prior episode, we saw that Lasher and Imelef were finally going to have the marriage ceremony, and the idea was that these two would help repopulate the Taltos race. The Taltos are they're a race of magical beings. Their blood is literally infused with magic, as we got to see a little bit of Lasher's background flashbacks of his previous life. In the previous episode, it showed that he was able to put life back into scorched earth, literally. And so everybody is wanting Taltos blood to be empowered by this. Now, of course, Rowan and the Mayfairs from New Orleans, they have a little bit more altruistic like means for it. Like at the very least, they're looking to just get JoJo out of the thrall that Rowan left her in at the beginning of the season. Whereas Ian and his family over here in Scotland obviously want the power for much more nefarious means. And we can see that just by the actions that they're taking. And so Lasher is beginning to sense the problems of what's going on in his current location. And it's been hinted at. He knows that he can't really trust Ian and his family and all the people that are around him. But now he's directly picking up that he could be in a very, very bad situation. And he tells Imelef that after the children are born, he feels they should all go to New Orleans with Rowan. And this turns out to be right for a number of reasons, but it was nice to finally get to this point to where Lasher and Rowan legitimately trust each other, just because as we've seen over the course of like both of these seasons here, whether it was our non-corporeal Lasher, who was very, very nefarious, very, very evil, trying to make himself whole and corporeal again, and we see the Lasher that we have now, and he's been killing Mayfairs for a good chunk of the season, not willingly. It's just been something he hasn't been able to control. And it's kind of crazy to get all the way around that. And these two finally realize that they really do need to trust each other. They both have these great ideas and these great goals here for better, like for the betterment of a lot of people, but yet and still their distrust of each other has led us to where we are right now with the show. So it's nice to see that the two are finally coming around to that. Now, we see that Julian is still keeping up the charade in Cortland's body and not letting anybody into the fact that he is Julian just yet. He still has to keep up this subterfuge while he's trying to put his plan into fruition. And he ends up poisoning Rowan to knock her out, to take her out of the equation, while Imelef begins to have her children. You have to remember, just like with Rowan in season 1, these kids, they're born quickly and then they start to grow and age quickly as well too. And so Imelef begins to start having her and Lasher's kids, and we see as Ian's family are all tending to them, as again they're trying to make sure that these kids are nice and healthy and hardy for what's to come a bit later. Now, with that, Ian and Cortland Julian as Cortland revealed himself fully to Lasher when they take him to a ceremony that they claim is for the betterment of his children. And it turns out they're just cutting his throat in order to harvest his blood, which they need for the ceremony to again empower the children even more and to empower some of themselves as well too. And it, like Lasher at this point has just been taken advantage all around. Like up until this point, even though things are becoming better with Rowan, we have to come at it from his point of view that Rowan's been looking at him and potentially trying to kill him for the majority of the season. Ian, who very much has kept it under wraps what he's been wanting Lasher for, now has betrayed him as well too. If I was Lasher, I would just be done dealing with anybody in this crazy ass family because none of it has led for good at all. But it is interesting to note though that some of Ian's family don't seem too committed to this idea. They're not all in on like the killing of Lasher or the sacrificing of his children that's going to take place later. And that makes me wonder whether that's going to be something that gets brought out in season 3, because not everybody has to be on board with Julian as Cortland's planned here. Like there's going to be a little bit of dissent, just like there is with the Mayfairs. Not everybody is just following Rowan blindly either with that. So with that, the whole thing is that Julian is able to use Lasher's blood to empower himself, and he does a number of things, which includes disable the binding of Ian's family to people like Lark or Ian's daughter, so that Rowan can't harm them. Because as we saw from the moment they got to Ian's compound, Ian had set up a binding with other family members to where if somebody harms him, they end up harming other people, and therefore it pretty much left Rowan and Lark and Moira and Cortland, when it was still Cortland, like they were all depowered at that point because they can't attack anybody without causing harm to somebody potentially innocent. But Julian, as Cortland, has now removed those protections and basically allows Ian and his family to be attacked and almost killed in most cases, just because Julian doesn't really care. Julian was using Ian as a means to an end. And it's interesting to look at this because Julian was doing the same thing with Cortland. And I know I believed it, but I wonder if a number of you, and you can tell me in the comment section, like, I think a number of us thought that that just automatically meant that that Ian was on Julian's good side, that he was the good son, the one that Julian really wanted to do all the work and was going to revel and share in the spoils later on. But very clearly, Julian doesn't care. He just wants the power and will use either or both sons to ultimately get what he wants. So after disabling all the bindings here that stop Rowan from being able to attack Ian and his family, he also makes it abundantly clear to Rowan that he wants her to drink Lasher's blood as well so that she can become empowered like him and join in with his conquest. So we don't know if Julian's just trying to take over the world, if it's all revenge ploy, if it's just about getting power and ruling, whatever the case is. He knows that Rowan is different, that Rowan is special, and that with Rowan by his side, that he'd be virtually unstoppable. And of course, Rowan is not going to go with that at all, and thus begins this great battle between Cortland and his followers versus Rowan and the people on her side, which now include the Talamasca. Because in the previous episode, we saw Sip and Polina, the Talamasca agent assigned to him, had arrived in Scotland looking into Lasher's past. They had found the place where Lasher's previous body was killed and died. And they ended up getting captured by the police. And it turns out the police were working for Ian, and they take them to Ian's prison, where Rowan, earlier in the episode, is also thrown into after Cortland poisons her. Now, thankfully for Sip, if you remember earlier in the season, he was given a magical spell that basically ensures trust with one person. But the thing is, once you use it, that person, once it wears off, can never trust you again. Sip went a different route with Moira and decided to just be upfront and honest with her, and it seemingly worked out to both of their benefit. So Sip decides to use this spell instead on their jailer, who ends up freeing them, freeing Rowan, and allowing them to contact the Talamasca so they can enter the fight behind Rowan to protect Lasher's children. Because the ultimate game plan here from Julian is to sacrifice Lasher and Imoleth's children so that they can use their blood to, again, empower Julian and empower anybody else he believes should share in these spoils. So this big battle breaks out. Really, really cool to see all the magical deaths going on and the carnage and chaos happening as well, too. I thought this was one of the most, like, badass scenes of this show thus far. But unfortunately, this ended with Polina, the Talamasca agent, being killed off by Julian, who hits her with a lightning strike as the Talamasca are evacuating Imoleth and Lasher's kids. So she's already gone out the door. But at the same time, with that, it was kind of necessary because with Sip and Rowan back on good ground, you know, Cyprian admitted to Rowan that he's there to protect Lasher, to help her. He understands more of who Lasher is and what Lasher is ultimately there to do. I think that Polina probably couldn't be around because back in New Orleans, I think there's still going to be some struggles next season when they start to deal with Julian, which I imagine is where they're ultimately going. And I think Polina towing the Talamasca company line would end up causing some friction with Rowan. So that had to be out the door. Maybe Cyprian's new boss or partner, the one that recruited him in the first place, might be end up featuring a little bit more here in season 3. So Rowan, Moira, Lark, they all end up heading back to New Orleans at the end of this ordeal. And Lark points out that he kind of thinks that Rowan might want the power and blood as well, too, that Julian was offering, and that he doesn't see it just as simply as you're just trying to get a little bit and do like have a normal life. Like everybody wants power. What would make you any different, even if you are a good person? And this leads to an impasse to where the two decide that Lark is going to have to take this spell that Rowan was initially thinking about a few episodes ago to make Lark lose all of his memories of her and decided against it. And now they both realize it's the smart choice because with Julian still out there and likely going to come for Rowan and the rest of the Mayfairs in a power grab next season, Lark just can't be around because it'll cause everybody more issues. So Lark takes the tea, loses his memories of Rowan, and back in the Mayfair home, they're finally able to free JoJo from the thrall that Rowan put her in again at the beginning of the season, as Julian, as Cortland, watches from afar. So, a far more interesting season than we got first time around, and we're in a very interesting spot to where I imagine season 3, once that hopefully gets announced, is going to have to carry the same amount of action and intensity and fun and drama that this season did with the arrival of the new Telemasca show and season 3 of Interview with the Vampire Lestat. In order to keep up with those, we're gonna have to keep things moving and keep things faster paced. And so I'm excited to see what a season 3 here for Mayfair Witches ends up looking like. But let me know in the comment section what y'all have been thinking of this show so far. It's been fun following the Immortal Universe. I'm excited again for some new shows to join up this fall, early spring next year. But that's it for now, y'all. So make sure to get subscribed to my link tree at linktr.ee/T scary movie. If you get subscribed, that's going to be access to the YouTube page for the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio only versions of the show, my letterbox page for written reviews and movie rankings through the year, my TikTok page for full episodes, movie news, and movie premieres, to my Twitch page for horror gaming, and my Fangoria shop page for a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria store. Take advantage of that, y'all. Hit that subscribe button. I got more great reviews coming up your way. Folks, we got hell of a summer. We're going to be talking The Ghost in the Darkness in honor of Val Kilmer. We got a lot of fun stuff coming out for y'all here very soon. Don't want y'all to miss any of that. Hit that subscribe button. But that's going to do it for me tonight, y'all. I appreciate you tuning in. My name is T. We'll be talking scary movies. Stay scared.